Hello.
Well, it was a pretty good week, don't you guys think? The Canadian men's national team off to the semifinals for the first time since 2007 after a comprehensive win over Costa Rica. Canadian women's national team went undefeated in their group and are into the Olympic quarterfinals. And your Toronto FC undefeated in 4 straight matches. This is a rather celebratory edition of Waking the Red Weekly presented by Footy Talks. Then my name is Mitchell Tierney. Ahead on this week's show, of course, we'll chat at length about both national teams and the latest on Toronto FC. Jeffrey P. Nesker, Michael Singh. Wild week of football. Doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon. It gets even crazier this week.
Wild week of sport, man. Who's actually awake here? I mean, I lasted until what? I think the men's semis in surfing, and then woke up about 2 hours ago on the couch. Nobody bothered me. I guess I fell really asleep. I know you two got up for the Canadian women's national team because I saw how busy the Slack chat was while I was sleeping. So yeah. I'm wondering which one of us may fall asleep in the middle of the show. I'm
My
guessing
laptop might be the first one, Jeff. I'm having some technical difficulties here. Let's call it.
Mike, watching you get ready in 15 nanoseconds while we were doing the WTR opening was amazing. Like watching you zoom your camera and set everything up. You are a pro star at this, my friend. How's your weekend? How's everybody's weekend?
Yeah, so I just missed like what you just said because my laptop cut out again. But
it was all right. I was kind of making fun of you. I was chirping at you a little bit, but we'll ignore
good.
it. We'll ignore it.
Happy the laptop knows. Yeah, I got it fixed though. Everything seems to be back in order.
Sweet.
Weekend was great. Such a jam-packed action of, Canada soccer, TFC. Jeff, you and I did a Twitter Spaces that went on for about almost 2 hours just because there was just so much to talk about, right? Just overall, I think we can all come away from that weekend with, TFC winning. The Canadian women's national team are through. The Canadian men's national team are through to the semifinals for the first time since 2007. There's just so much buzz right now happening in Canada soccer. I know I've been asked personally just to do a bunch of hits for a lot of media stations, and I feel like I've done more hits in the last 2 weeks combined than I have in probably my entire career, just because there's such a buzz now around the country, really, in Canada soccer.
Yep.
Yeah, it certainly is, and obviously that buzz is manifesting itself, and a lot of players on both national teams, but specifically the men's national team right now being rumored to move or change locations. And we have one happening right before the show. Mark-Anthony Kaye moving from LAFC to the Colorado Rapids for $1 million in general allocation money, a 2022 international slot, plus incentives as part of the deal. Colorado also get LAFC's 2022 first round super draft pick. This is a bit of a surprise one for me. The Rapids, of course, 4th in the MLS Western Conference. They're a good team, but I thought Mark-Anthony Kaye's next move would be to Europe. So seeing him move to the Colorado Rapids is a bit of a surprise.
I also don't think they gave up that much for him. They gave up $1 million in allocation money, international roster spot. Is that it?
And the super draft pick. Can't forget the super draft pick.
Well, no, they got the super
Colorado
draft
got
pick
the
as well.
super draft.
Colorado got the super draft pick.
Oh, wow.
That's honestly a great piece of business right there for Colorado. I think all of us here are really high on Mark-Anthony Kaye. He's really started to come into his own, and I am, perhaps the depth at LAFC is kind of what won here. But I am shocked, really, at this move and the fact that he was able to go for a relatively cheap price. Man, this, like as Mitch said, I thought his next move would probably be overseas. I thought he's a player that can net maybe a $2, $3, $4 million transfer fee. And I'm surprised, but hey, fair play to Robin Fraser's Colorado.
I mean, Benedict brought something up which is interesting. Ben says, surely Colorado think they can flip into Europe for more money. Well, why couldn't LA do that? I mean, why does LA? I would imagine LA has probably got better relationships with European teams because of the amount of players, younger players that have been courted all over the big leagues, than Colorado. And I mean, I don't understand that chess move. Like, why why?
So the key piece of business here is obviously the allocation money, and let's just make it clear. This is a large amount of allocation money. $1 million in, under the MLS's salary cap. That's a large sum, and you could do a lot for that. And I know LAFC, they're rumored to try and figure out whatever's happening with their third designated player situation. Perhaps this is some allocation money that can go towards that. But $1 million in a summer transfer window, you can turn that into a lot of different players, especially again under the league's salary budget, and perhaps with the young designated player rules coming in, the young money signing coming in. Maybe this is more currency for them to head out in the transfer market. And their side, as Jeff is you pointed out at the top, they have a big reputation, so they can attract really talented pieces. Regardless,
my question is, who cares? Why bother? Inter Miami had like 27 DPs, and it doesn't seem like people are giving much of a crap about MLS's roster rules. So credit to LA for playing fair, but I don't understand this trade. I mean, Ben is saying LA might want the international slot more than the money, which makes sense. Producer Kev is saying, yes, a trade with lots of caps, and saying Mike knows that's a dream come true for me.
I know. Kevin and I have been talking about that for a while.
And Graham said something that I wanted to pair it on, which is, I still wonder if Fraser will be coming to Toronto. That was my immediate first thought, because that rumor came out that Fraser is about to re-up with Colorado, and a MLS team approached him to maybe sway him, and we all know who that MLS team was. I'm wondering if that sort of puts a stop on TFC's pursuit of trying to convince Robin Fraser to come back and take Greg Vanney's mantle after a brief Chris Armas and Javier Perez interlude. What do you guys think?
We'll see. I don't know. I don't know if Toronto sees that team, but we'll find out.
I never want to turn Jeff's rumors down on this show, man. I never want to just say no, because you never know. But that is a maybe a bit of a stretch. Who knows what'll happen? I don't think this trade affects that by any means, though. I don't think.
Well, if we need to bring 2 bags of money to Colorado, because if we can get Mac and Robin Fraser, that would be, let's do it.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing, man.
Yeah. Two
Absolutely.
more things on this trade before we should probably move on. The international slot is in 2022, which is interesting. That means evidently they won't be doing anything with that this year. And the other thing is, we don't know if there's potentially a sell-on clause that has been negotiated within, which some deals have.
There better be.
Colorado.
That's a good point.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But as we've said, Mark Anthony Kaye, far from the only Canadian who's probably going to get paid and probably going to move to new clubs soon after just another really strong performance from the Canadian men's national team against Costa Rica in the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup, the first time that Canada's won a game at that round since 2007. And look, we can talk about Sivan Eustáquio a whole bunch. We could talk about that incredible Junior Hoylett goal. For me, the thing that stood out to me most, and which was massive in terms of that week off Canada had and everything else, was the defensive performance. No shots on goal Costa Rica had that whole game. You saw Canada. I was a little worried when they were playing even some of the corner kicks. Like, they had maybe 4 guys in the box. Everyone else was back. But there was a real commitment from this team and organization to defend in transition that I have never seen before. Like, there was one time when I think it was like a 3-on-3 and Costa Rican guy got held up for 2 seconds, and all of a sudden it's a 3-on-8 or 3-on-9. Like, Canada's all the way back. So, that's the kind of thing that will win you matches in this next round in September, which is really what our eyes are towards. And obviously a massive performance from Canada, as we've said.
Outstanding.
That's what makes this one of the better performances we've seen in recent years. Not that Canada scored their way out of trouble as they have in recent past, but that from start to finish, this was a consistent effort.
Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. So much ink has been spilled, but we got our platform, so let's spill some more. I was at the Miracle at BMO in 2019, so were you. That had a certain David and Goliath. Things are so different now. Things are so different now. Like, I mean, I kept thinking about that meet and greet at the rec room that KJ hosted for Footy Talks. And, you know, one of the most quiet guys on that panel was Stefan Eustachio, right? And just thinking back, like, you know, to the questions that he would get asked now. I mean, Fonzie was the obvious hero. And I think Stefan got maybe 3 questions. And most of them were KJ questions just out of, you know, pity, because everybody was asking Alfonso what it was like to, you know, meet Robert Lewandowski. So it's just, it's crazy how far we've come. You know,
every time I think about that event, Jeff, I just think about the Kamal Lawrence incident that we had.
I know, me too. Every time I bring it up, I'm never, ever going to live it down. It's so bad because I want to talk about that event all the time. I mean, I'll tell you, my buddy Gavin, who I was sitting with, he said something really prescient, which was, he said, look around, because in a couple years, this ain't happening again. You will not have this kind of access to these players. And he was so right. So it just made me appreciate it that much more. You know, and it was a great event, and the experience of being at BMO Field for that victory over the United States. I mean, I shouldn't be talking about it. It should be Mr. Crybaby over here, Mitch Tierney, because he was so happy. And you know, listen, credit where credit's due. I think it was Dwayne that tweeted out, there's a generational sort of zeitgeist that we olds don't understand, that, you know, these Canadian players have a swagger that comes from age. They don't know the defeats and the heartbreak. All they know is this ascent. And it's just wonderful to be around. I mean, that team bossed that game. I can't, like, just thinking back to the level of outplayed that Costa Rica were. And, you know, say what you will, they're a team on the way out. They're all veterans, but that was their A side. Other than Navas, that was their A team, and we played them off the park. You know, when can we say that about Canada? This is an entirely new way to be, and wow, it's pretty terrific.
I feel like every game Canada plays, Jeff, they break another record.
The ceiling go, yeah, absolutely. The goalposts change, right? And at the end of every game,
drastically,
there's like this sort of mea culpa that we do, where it's like, well, it's okay if we don't win the next one, you know, because we won that one, and I, you know, pretty soon that attitude's going to turn into like that inexcusable kind of swagger that we see in other federations and can't stand. You know,
it's like they went away for that pandemic, missed a year, and all of a sudden just came back like super. Like everyone just grew up all of a sudden and came back, and now this Canadian men's national team they're making strides to be where they should be, in my opinion, and that's a top 3 nation in the CONCACAF region. And, you know, that victory, was it Saturday?
Yeah.
Sunday, right? Sunday, yeah.
Here's Sunday, yeah.
The victory on
Tokyo
Sunday.
time here, so.
Really.
Yeah, exactly.
That victory on Sunday, it not only, you know, made me feel good about Canada's odds moving forward. Obviously, they have a big test ahead of them taking on Mexico, who is very hungry, by the way, and obviously coming off a Nations League final loss to the United States, and they're desperate to get back and win some silverware. But it also gave me a lot of hope in World Cup qualifying, because when you think about it, we don't have Alphonso Davies, we don't have Jonathan David, we don't have Kyle Larin, we didn't have Io Akinola, we didn't have Scott Kennedy, you know, obviously Atiba Hutchinson, and some other names there. Scott Arfield, if you want to throw him in the mix. There's several names there who we don't have our first choice goalkeeper. Like, there are several names there that you can just throw into the mix that are probably automatic starters on this men's national team. And Canada are still finding a way to get the results. And that, for me, is a testament to how far this nation has come, because, you know, we knew about the superstars for a few years now. We knew about Davies, we knew about David, but now we're seeing the likes of Kyle Larin really emerging into a superstar. We're seeing some depth pieces, like you mentioned there, Leamington, Ontario native Stephen Eustachio. He's coming out, man, and he is an absolute baller. Only 29 years old. He still has his best years ahead of him.
24.
Is he 24? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Even better.
Even better.
Jonathan Osorio, man, this guy is looking like we've watched Ozo obviously for years, but he's looking more comfortable on the grand scheme of things on the big stage.
Mhm.
Kamal Miller, I gotta commend him because that guy is an absolute baller there at the back. He's a tank there with his tackles. He's a no nonsense kind of defender, and he has pace too, which is so important. He was a fullback converted to a center back, and he's really taken it in stride. And I thought he was just outstanding. Obviously Steven Vittoria joining the mix. I can go through this whole roster. I haven't even mentioned Richie Larea or Tajon Buchanan. We can go through this whole roster right now, and I think from literally back to front, there are pieces on this team to get excited about, and that's something we haven't ever been able to say. So, just
Tesho looked good, man. That last little spell there, he looked good. I mean, if he has to lead the line in this Mexico tie, I hope he comes out looking as switched on as he did in those minutes at the end of that game, because he looked good and he was just a little bit off and. I do think we're going to miss Cava, especially against the Mexican side. I really do. I mean, he's tailor-made to play against Liga MX players in CONCACAF. But, Tesho looked good. And what more praise can we heap on Tajon Buchanan? It's ridiculous. I mean, his finishing boots aren't quite there. But if that's the least of your problems, I mean, you're smiling, right? Like,
I wouldn't say they're not there, though. I wouldn't say they're not there. I think he has that in his locker.
No, absolutely he has that. They're not there yet. Okay, I correct myself.
Yeah.
He needs to develop that, yeah.
Good point there, Jeff. Just building off that, obviously the one blemish, maybe two blemishes in this whole match, even though it was probably one of the best matches ever by a Canadian men's national team side, was the yellow card picked up by Lucas Cavallini and the yellow card picked up by Steven Vittoria, which means that neither player will be able to play in the semifinals against Mexico, which, the squad's already depleted. I listed a lot of the injuries already and people missing. Who steps up here, guys? Who steps up for Steven Vittoria? Who steps up for Lucas Cavallini? Jeff, you mentioned their Tesho. Is there another name perhaps besides Tesho that perhaps, can get their way into that starting 11, or is it his job to lose?
Well, I think he's already in the starting 11 and his name starts with a J and ends with a Hoylet. So I think he's going to impress again, playing on the shoulder, causing terror. As long as you've got that three-headed attack of the Tajon, Tesho, Junior, I think they'll complement each other. So I do think that's the attack that starts on Thursday.
Yeah, I think Tesho's the best forward for what Canada needs to do, and that's if they get under pressure, like Tesho can hold up the ball and play to those Tajons and Hoylet and those kind of guys off of him. You could go a little more small ball if you wanted to and go Tajon and Junior up front, but the risk obviously would be that, while those guys are great technical players with the ball at the feet, like they're not winning the ball in the same way that Tesho can. So obviously, as we've said, I think Cavallini is a massive mix. Is there a more CONCACAF player on Canada's roster than Lucas Cavallini? And like this would have been a perfect game for him against, a lot of players that he would have played against regularly in the past couple of years. But I do think Tesho's the best option. But I did want to pick up on something that Mike, you said, and I think this is probably the prescient thing coming out of this game is the fact that there wasn't JD and Alfonso on the field, and you could kind of get the feeling over the past couple of years that maybe this Canada team and all of its ascendancy were tied to JD and Alfonso just having two really, really good players, some of the best players in the region. But what this Canada group has proven is that yes, those guys are leading the charge, but they're also raising everyone else's level at a significant margin. And we've seen, even a guy like Osorio, again, Osorio's 29, Eustachio's 24. I think Osorio's learning a ton of stuff from playing beside someone like that. This team is just making itself better and making all of the different players better as a result of, belief, as a result of how good some of these guys are. So that's what really excites me going into
John Herdman. We got to shout out Johnny H. I think it's also a testament to the kind of manager he is, the relationships that he develops with his players. How many times did we hear brotherhood in the post-game pressers from every, what I mean? And that's important because
that's his buzzword.
Well, I mean, it's a good buzzword, right? And if you've got everybody willing to run through walls for this guy, we're in great shape. We're in really good shape. I had a question. So Eustáquio could have played for Portugal. Do you think he would have played for Portugal? Do you think he's good enough to be a first teamer on for the Portuguese national team?
Certainly not right now. I think he'd have to have a major move, even higher than the ones he's rumored with, and then had some consistency. Like, this Portuguese team is quite good right now. This might be one of the best ones we've seen, certainly in our lifetime, since
I agree.
Figo years. So no, I think he made the right decision, certainly playing from Canada for more than just the fact that he is playing for Canada. But I will say, I mean, Eustáquio, obviously John Herdman recruited him. He's probably not even playing for Canada right now, or who knows if he would be if Herdman's not there. You hear the same thing with Io, right? Like, yeah, it's pretty clear Herdman's got them to buy into a system. He's got them to buy into a shared mentality here. And obviously it's really transforming what this national team is capable of in terms of the player quality and everything else, and just the belief in general. So yeah, certainly credit to John Herdman and what he's been doing. Canada, of course, playing in that semifinal at 10 p.m. Eastern at Energy Stadium in Houston, Texas, against Mexico. 8 hours
it's late. It's late, but I'm cheering it because it's not 4 a.m. So continue your thought. Yeah.
8 hours later, Canada. Sorry, go ahead.
Just to put that Portugal thing to bed, like Renato Sanchez, he can't even get it to the Portugal starting 11, and that's one of the best up and coming, youngsters at the holding mid position. So I think Eustáquio would have been really tough in there to crack that roster, and I think he definitely made the right decision based on the experience he's getting here with Canada and the run of play that he's getting. And obviously he stepped up proving himself, and I think he's marginally perhaps, but he's probably boosted his transfer value, even slightly at this tournament. Because
absolutely, absolutely, and he's in the shop window now. I mean, what we've heard, the usual run of like upper third tier to second tier European teams as potential destination, he may have cracked the top tier. If he wins player of the tournament, he may have cracked the top tier,
and he has a shot. He has a shot. If Canada go on, they go on, who knows, make a deep run, then he's definitely probably maybe Buchanan.
They're all going to end up at Besiktas with the team. every last one of them.
Hilarious, just there. You.
I'd like you and you and you. But that wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing if our guys are playing club football together year in, year out. As long as they don't get sick of each other, that might that might happen. But yeah, I mean, you can only heap superlatives at that performance. It was wonderful to watch that Canadian men's national team do their thing, strut their stuff, not back down. Meet Costa Rica and better them. Especially given the struggle that the U.S. men's national team had with Jamaica in their quarterfinal. It's unbelievable. I knock on wood, cross your fingers, but I'm not that scared of the rest of the bracket. I think we've got a outside chance here. I think it's healthy to have our Canadian reluctance to start the swagger, but it'll be so much fun when that sea change happens and we're all walking around like we're the best thing in the universe. And it's like, well, Steven Eustáquio, whatever. He so cares if he made Portugal starting 11. He's our guy, and Portugal can't have him. You want to move on to the ladies?
Sure, yeah, the Canadian women's national team. I mean, part of why we're also docile on this week's show is the fact that they played at 7 in the morning. That's going to get worse. They're going to be playing at 4 in the morning. After that Gold Cup game, the Canada plays at 10 p.m. the night before. So I don't even know. I haven't even planned how I'm gonna play that yet.
Cola. Yeah,
it's almost too late to stay up for the whole thing, but too early. I don't know. At any rate, it's going to be a wild lead into the weekend, the long weekend for Canadian national team fans.
If you're serious about it, you start living taxi driver hours now. Like you start switching over to nights and sleeping during the day. I'm not kidding, but anyway, it's a slog, and your circadian rhythm goes off, and it's nuts, and you struggle. So what's our
guys? Yeah, talk to me. What do you make of this women's national team's performance through the group stage? 1 win,
refresh me on
2
the
draws.
record. Yeah.
1 win, 2 draws. They obviously started off the tournament with a draw against Japan. I think it was a 1-1 draw, and then they got the 2-1 win over Chile, and then the 1-1 draw again today against Great Britain. So, Mitch, I know you watched some of these games. Well, what are your thoughts overall on the team's performance so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably been better than I was expecting, to be honest. They've scored in every game, which I think is important, and it's been different goal scorers, which also is important in terms of the biggest issue for this team coming in. Vanessa Gilles is amazing. She had probably one of the performances of the tournament today against a really, really good team GB. Let's not get that wrong. I mean, the quality that they're bringing off the bench and late in that game is unbelievable, and they still needed a pretty lucky deflection goal. I mean, certainly they deserved it, but they still needed a pretty lucky deflection to get a result against Canada. So I actually think they set up pretty well going into the knockout stages. Obviously, it's going to be pretty tricky. You've got on your side of the bracket Brazil, the Netherlands, and the United States. We had obviously Claire on last week, and she was talking about how finishing second in the group would be good for Canada because they'd avoid the United States. But then Sweden decided they had other plans and won the group. So it's gonna be tricky for sure going forward. But I've actually been pretty impressed with a lot of the at least individual performances, and I think this group's set up pretty well going to the knockout stages.
Have you been impressed with Coach Bev?
Mostly, I thought today, again, considering how big this game was for the bracket itself and the opportunity to maybe have a bit of an easier path to the medal round, I would have liked to have seen a better side from Canada.
For sure.
Sat Sinclair, which I didn't really like, and Fleming came off the bench as well. I mean, I don't know. I would have liked to see you go for it against Team GB. They still almost got the results, or almost got the win, which obviously would have won them the group. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of an aggressive stance from Canada, just because what it would have meant.
Both our draws we conceded late, right? The Japan and the Team GB. I mean,
correct. Yeah.
So
and against Chile, we conceded after. Against Chile, we also conceded after going up 2-0, 2-1. They also hit the post after that.
So that seems to be a thing here, is taking our foot off the gas and trying to park a bus that can't be parked, right?
I don't know if that was necessarily the case in the Japan game. It's been kind of different in all of the games.
Okay.
The goal they conceded against Japan was weak.
I don't know, man. That was a nice goal. Nice ball over the top. I mean, Sheridan got caught out, but this has been a debate as to whether it was poor from Canada or good from Japan. And I tend to, I mean, I'm wearing obviously the Japanese kit right now. So
we noticed.
We noticed. I actually think that was a pretty nice goal.
I thought the finish, right idea. I thought the finish was weak. I thought she didn't hit that strong enough. I thought Sheridan was just completely out of position. I mean, the girl took it early. She took it outside the box. Canada was tracking back. I think it almost caught Sheridan by surprise because I don't think that ball was hit strong enough for it to find the back of the net, in my opinion, at least. I thought they could have done better there, but hey, it is what it is. I think, Jeff, you're right. That is kind of a recurring narrative with this team. They keep conceding after going up early, and against not
goal dangerous. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Continue.
No, you're good. Against a team like Brazil, that you're going to get paid. I mean, they're going to make you pay. They're a team that is very talented, and especially in a knockout game where, you concede a late goal heading into extra time.
Yeah.
That takes the wind out of you. That takes the wind out of your sails, right? So they got to really lock it down there. What I do like is the way that Bev Priestman really set up for this tournament. She faced a lot of top tier sides heading into this tournament. They prepare themselves for this stage exactly, which they've gotten to. They face, the teams like the Netherlands, Japan. They faced Brazil a couple of times. They faced England, Wales. Like, these are all good nations that they prepared against. So hopefully that translates now moving forward, and really they put out their best there on Thursday.
Yeah, and they played Brazil, as you mentioned, a lot in the recent past, so that's good as well.
Have we won? I don't think we've
no, but you still have obviously have the experience against this team, so there's going to be no real surprises when you're playing them. So that in itself is a positive. And I will say, obviously, the late concessions are a bit of an issue, but Canada scored first in all 3 games, which I think is a positive going forward. And I think that is something to build on, obviously.
It is, but it feels like 1 step forward, 3 steps back, doesn't it? At least on paper. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I like my sleep, so I've missed our friend of the show, Dr. Rustad. I hear she was incredible. I see some of the highlights. I mean, during the day, it's all repeats of the stuff that happened. So I've seen a lot of highlights. It gives me pause. If we've played Brazil 4 times, and we haven't beaten them 4 times, and we keep rolling out the same basic identity, does it matter that we've played them 4 times? I want to see
what I will say, Jeff, is that they've looked better each time they've played them. And I thought that's
all I want to know. Yeah.
And I thought the most recent time they played Brazil, I thought they actually, outplayed Brazil, which is drastically different from the She Believes Cup when they got played off the park.
Yeah.
So Brazil, and Brazil also hasn't seen Canada's best side, where everybody's in the 11, everybody's playing. Kadisha Buchanan missed all of those matches. Ashley Lawrence, was forced to miss one of those matches. So I think we still don't know exactly what this matchup will look like. That being said, yeah, Jeff, it's never good when you look back on the past and you're like, we haven't found a way to beat this team. That obviously doesn't bode well for their confidence, but hopefully they can look within the performance. And I thought overall in that, like I said, the last performance they did well, and that hopefully they can build off that and, get over that hump, get over that mountain and move on.
Yeah.
And we'll find out, provided our alarm clocks work.
I have full confidence that you'll be up to watch it, Mitch. I have zero confidence that I will. I'm telling you that right now.
Before we move on, just quick question: who's been your standout player for the women's national team so far at this tournament, Mitch?
I mean, it's probably still Ashley Lawrence. I mean, another game-breaking play today from out wide. Wherever they play her. I mean, she's the best fullback on either side of the park with Canada plays. Like, really, one of their big questions going to this Brazil game is who they match on the other side of Lawrence, because there just hasn't been that balance there, because Lawrence is so good, and whoever's played the other side, be it Riviere or be it Chapman, hasn't been up to that standard. So I think Ashley Lawrence is the game breaker for Canada, and yeah, she's been pretty special so far this tournament.
I agree with you.
I mean, Chapman's my favorite player on the squad, so there'll be no Alicia Chapman slander in this chat. Very different player than Lawrence. I don't know if they'll, I mean, I like what she brings to the game. There's a tenacity, and she's got that low center of gravity, and she'll chase after every ball, absolutely. But I would not put Quinn as a fullback. No, Quinn belongs in the midfield.
Ashley Lawrence is probably the best player on this team. Maybe Buchanan is up there for a shout, but I would say Ashley Lawrence is probably the best player. I still am adamant that she is not best utilized on this team as a fullback. I personally think that you got to play her in the middle of the park, and everything should go through that Ashley Lawrence, because she is that good.
As a 6, as a deep line playmaker.
As a 10, as an 8.
A 10, wow.
As a 10 or an 8. in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I think
right.
she can pull strings left, right, and center. As a footballer in general, I think she's probably the best on this team, and I'd like to see her link up there and with Quinn and Jesse Fleming there in the midfield. I think they would do.
That's a devastating midfield, actually. I like
they would
that.
do some damage, and like the heart of the park is honestly the most important, especially in the women's game. In my opinion, I think that's where a lot of the matches are won and lost, and they still do have potential there at fullback to cover at least, because I don't know how. It's obviously very important, don't get me wrong. I just feel like the middle of the park is really really important, and probably a little bit more important than the fullback position, and I don't know if she's best utilized there,
especially when you're looking for goals and your runs are so chaotic, right? Like you need, if you're just gonna like Timbits to the byline, then you need somebody like a Vasquez or a Pozuelo to just ping balls, maybe like a Mac to play him on the floor.
It's not even necessarily like in the final third or going forward. The reason why I want her there is because she's also an outlet for the team. Like, it's easier to get the ball to Ashley Lawrence and have her keep possession when she's in the middle of the park, where someone from the left, someone from the right, wherever it is, can pass her the ball through the middle. They can get the ball to her feet, as opposed to her being isolated there on the right or isolated there on the left, where not always you can find her as an outlet. I think she does such a good job at holding up the ball and connecting with her teammates. I think she's best utilized there in the middle of the park, in my opinion, at least. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to some Toronto FC then, and another good week for Toronto, or for the Reds. I mean, 1-1 draw against the Red Bulls, 2-1 win away against the Chicago Fire. I think ideally you would have flipped those, and considering I'm finally getting a win at BMO Field, but nonetheless, I mean, another 4 points in the bank, and that's big moving forward, and obviously the momentum of this team keeps going. For me, the thing that continues to strike me, I think, is the smartest thing Javier Perez has done is just how much back to the basics this team is playing. Everyone's playing when they can. Obviously, the fullback situation is one thing, but when they can, they're playing in their proper position. No one really looks out of place, and everyone's started to look a little bit more confident in their role once again. And I think that in itself is the way you get a team like this back into a season, is not by complicating things, not by trying something wild or new. It's just by sticking with what these guys know best, making them comfortable again, and then you can slowly build off that if there's need to. But obviously with this roster, I think, it's a really good start.
Agreed.
I was asked this question yesterday on TSN 1050. With each point, each win that TSC get, what does that say about the Chris Armas era?
The fact that they already have 3 more points in this entire Javier Perez era than they do in the Chris Armas era.
I feel bad for the guy. I mean, talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong momentum, and then just having a tsunami of garbage just pour over your head, right? And you can't fault the man for taking the job. I mean, your best friend, or a good friend in soccer circles, is saying, I'm going to vouch for you here. This is a safe space. You've always wanted to work with a bigger budget. You got to know your spot, like Han Solo. I have a bad feeling about this, but you're not going to turn the job down, right? So, at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of sacrificial lamb in the Chris Armas story, and wrong place,
Jeff,
wrong
I said the
time.
Chris Armas era, not necessarily Chris Armas. What does it say about the Chris Armas era?
That it was uniformly bad for everybody, and that we'll find out more and more details as history gives us more of a flight path. We'll find out how bad it was inside the hotel. We'll find out, just how awful the living experience was. How everybody's emotional state was completely out of whack. Did he, again,
for me, Jeff, it says that Bill Manning, Ali Curtis got this hire wrong, and really wrong. And that's just because, Jeff, the style of play that Chris Armas was trying to implement here at TFC and the current roster.
That's
right?
fair.
The roster that TFC had was not meant to be a pressing roster. Michael Bradley was not meant to play higher up the pitch, get up and down the pitch like he was. Clearly, when he's dropped back, this team has looked so much better. I think that's such a huge part of it, as Mitch said, just getting back to sort of basics and getting back to what this roster was built for. At the end of the day, that might not be the fault of Chris Armas. It could be the fault of...
Yeah, you don't hire a systems guy. I mean, Chris is a systems guy, and I think the mistake was looking for a systems guy in the first place, right? But hindsight is always 20/20, and we were all very excited at the idea of a Gegenpress kind of TFC. It was only after we saw that they couldn't do it that we started, that we got down off our high horses. But hindsight is always 20/20, and that's why I say it's too soon. But I do agree with you, and to his detriment, the Chris Armas thing has actually made me reevaluate my opinion on coaching in the sport, right? Like, I'm almost in an existential crisis way. Like, why are there systems guys? Do you know what I mean? Like, why? When people are like, well, at the end of the day, it's probably a 2-year turnaround for the new guy's system and his players to come in. I'm like, well, why would you do that? Why don't you just have coaches that aren't necessarily systems guys, are a bit more relaxed and are like, all right, this is the roster we have right now. This is what I'd like to play. But leading up to that, I'm not going to square peg round hole anything. I'm going to let my players play. And
there are coaches like that exist. But Chris Armas just wasn't.
Chris Armas is not one of them.
He was described to me, again, by several TFC people within the organization as someone who was stubborn. And, very nice guy, very, very good person. But he was stubborn in the sense that he did not want to get away from the type of system that he wanted to play.
And that was his Achilles heel. And that was
his Achilles heel. And that, in my opinion, when you look at what Perez has done, nothing really extraordinary. As Mitch said, just getting back to the basics and a simple 4-2-3-1, a low block. Like, we've seen TFC do it for so long, and he keep putting out the same type of players. He doesn't make any magical substitutions. This is literally getting back to what this roster was built for. It doesn't take a genius to do it. It just takes someone who's willing to accept the fact that, okay, this is the pieces that I have. Let's play a certain type of way for this to optimize this roster, and I think that's what Perez is doing right now.
I actually think that his coaching on the Chicago Fire game was a masterclass in adaptability. I really do. I really do. Considering what we trotted out. Considering what we trotted out in the first half, right? The attempt to sort of play fullback, like non-fullbacks out of position as fullbacks. I thought the adjustments that he made towards the second half and in the second half, because we were getting creamed on the flanks by Chicago, and it was only a matter. 13 saves. Bones was standing on his head. So I do think that his adaptability in the second half is not necessarily getting talked enough about, but I know you're going to shred me, so go ahead.
I wouldn't call it.
You're at the edge of your seat here. You're like, "What's stop talking, Jeff?"
I wouldn't call it a masterclass by any means. I thought TFC, regardless, were played off the park. Sure, they had no natural fullbacks on their roster, but at the same time, and I don't want to really rag on him because he was thrown into the lineup right before the game. He was asked to play a position he's really never played before. But I thought, for the most part, Luke Singh, he was left out to dry a little bit there, man. And I thought, someone could have probably given him a little bit better instruction of what to do in certain positions. I thought there were quite often he was left in no man's land, whether he was indecisive to go close down a cross, whether to not close down a cross, and too often he was doing nothing on a play where he was beaten easily by the first pass. So I don't know if I'd call it a masterclass. I thought Chicago kept their foot on the gas pedal probably for the duration of this match. I know watching it, I was like, oh my God, can we get through this? Can we get through this? Can we get through this?
It was so stressful.
And that's the Chicago Fire. that's not. We're not talking about a New England Revolution. We're not talking about, New York City FC. We're talking about the Chicago Fire there. So I would use the term masterclass there probably a little bit looser than.
Just tell me I'm wrong. Like, you don't have to sugarcoat it. Just say,
I don't want to say like you're wrong. I don't want to say like he did a terrible job. I just wouldn't call it a masterclass.
Okay.
No, I do think the team clearly under Perez has been playing a much better, more cohesive defensive system in overall. I think transitionally it's been better. The best thing probably you can say about it in terms of the results, they haven't conceded a first half goal since he's been manager, and I think that's pretty massive considering basically the entire Chris Armas era they were like 1-0 down after 15 minutes every game. So if more than that, so I think that is pretty important and something worth keeping in mind as this team moves forward, is how much kind of the defensive focus has improved.
Yep.
Who did they play at BMO Field? Oh, the Red Bulls.
Yeah, the Red Bulls.
So first minute of the game against the Red Bulls, I will point this out. The Red Bulls beat TFC's back line. They beat Omar Gonzalez, got in behind, and actually like missed the breakaway. So I don't know if it's perfect there, but results looking back on it, you can't really argue with that. Like TFC have put out the fires when they needed to. They haven't. They also haven't conceded late goals, Mitch. They haven't.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
When they're put under pressure, they're tucking in really nicely, and they're not giving up late leads, which we saw very often as well in the Chris Armas era. So I think a lot of it has to do, as we're talking about the basics, is the fact that we're not pulling ourselves out of position to press, where that makes you more vulnerable to just be broken down. Whereas, we're just tucking in, inviting some of the pressure, and relying on the fact that our 2 6s there, our 2 8s, whatever you want to call them, whatever they set up in the low block, will be there to support our center backs. And I thought Michael Bradley, and I can't stress this enough, has been so good at that. He's been so good over that span of getting out at the right times. He's been winning the ball back, and he's been keeping possession. He's obviously the first outlet that people go to. On TFC, is young center backs like a Luke Singh or even a Chris Mavinga, like Michael Bradley, you see him often drop even behind the center backs to pick up the possession. And that's what TFC used to do. And to have that Michael Bradley as an outlet in the back, and then you have Pozuelo and Soteldo as outlets moving forward, now there's areas on the pitch where you can keep possession. And you can go to very often just to, at least get field position. I think that's been incredible so far, and hopefully they can build off that and put in a better performance than I think we saw against Chicago.
Yeah, and I think obviously the defensive performances have been propped up as well, certainly against Chicago by the play of Alex Bono recently. I mean, even against the New York Red Bulls, I thought it wasn't as obvious of a incredible performance because he didn't make as many of the game-saving stops or the one-on-one saves that we know him to be making at his best. But I think his command of the box has been night and day better in terms of him being aggressive and claiming balls. I think he's helped certainly in terms of the organization of that back line. And yeah, this has been the best he's played in years for Toronto FC, I think, over the last couple of games. And that's obviously important when things are turning around and when you've had a bit of a shaky back line, is knowing that the guy back there is going to bail you out a couple times a game. Like that's pretty big.
I agree. He looks like he has his confidence back. I mean, in 2020, he posted 3 clean sheets in 3 appearances. So, I mean, it can't really get much better than the way he played last season. But even last season, he was speaking about getting his confidence back and looking like the keeper of old. And I think at the start of the season, he kind of lost that. Obviously, there's a lot of talk, and we're definitely guilty of that, of saying, why is this guy playing? Because we have someone like a Quentin Westberg, who we've all been accustomed to as this team's #1 goalkeeper out of the back. But then now, Alex Bono has really stepped up, and obviously against Chicago, he is absolutely fantastic. Now, here's my question for you guys, though. Is he now the team's #1 goalkeeper moving forward? Because Quentin Westberg was battling a finger injury, and he seems to be back. He made the bench for the first time last game, and maybe that's what also motivated Bono to really step up and put in the performance that he did, because he's looking over his shoulder, and he knows a guy like Q's coming back. Now that we're seeing TFC revert to TFC of old, let's call it, is Quentin Westberg the best fit for this team in net, or is it Alex Bono?
It's funny because obviously fairness hasn't been a factor in this goalkeeper conversation at all, because if everything was fair, Q would have gotten much more of an opportunity early on in the season when Alex Bono was struggling and not playing well.
Mm-hmm.
But in the interest of fairness, I mean, I don't think you can take Alex Bono right now. He's been such a stabilizing force for this team and such a reason why they're undefeated during the Perez era, that I think right now when you're finally, picking up results and finally have a run of form, why change anything that's working for you?
Exactly. I also think Alex is trying to like exercise demons of Perez cutting him from the youth squad. I think Perez being his coach is like really lit a fire under him.
So I'm with you guys. I'm with you guys there. I think Bono has definitely earned at least another start.
Mm-hmm.
What I will add is I have heard that Perez is a really big fan of Quentin Westberg. So, maybe we'll see a little bit of reverse, I don't know, what you called it, fairness there, Mitch. Maybe we'll see Quentin Westberg come in and be like, what the heck? Why isn't Alex Bono back in net? That's honestly, a luxury this team has, man.
Westberg might be related to Perez, but I still don't think he's getting a start. That's just my impression of Perez, how risk averse he is and how he'll run with the hot hands. So, and that could be just a consequence of Perez having the interim tag and knowing that his seat is in permanently hot situations. So he doesn't want to upset the apple cart, or it could just be, built into his DNA. I suspect it's a lot closer to the latter. I don't think Alex has anything to worry about for a while.
Definitely earned himself another
in
start.
In terms of being the number one right now. Mitchell is officially on the Jefferson Soteldo bandwagon, so says the rundown. Do you want to speak a little bit about why he?
Mitch, all aboard, baby.
Of course. So I think last week, my main point was that I needed to see more goals and assists from Jefferson Soteldo in order for him to get to that too good for this league threshold that Mikey set. Then he did like 40,000 scoop turns at BMO Field against the New York Red Bulls, and like that sold me. Like I realized this is the exact kind of player I love. I mean, he's pure flair. He's got those short shorts. He's got the bleached hair. Everything about Jefferson Soteldo I love. And look, I mean, we've talked so much this year about how much Toronto FC kind of sucked to watch, especially in the early parts of the season where they're really struggling. There was no fun. Like Jefferson Soteldo makes this team infinitely more fun to watch, even if he sometimes is looking off his teammates and maybe not making the best decisions in the final third. I think that's going to come very soon, especially when he has more options. Josie up there, Oso back, guys like Richie. Like I do think that when he gets some better runs in front of him, that's going to happen. But I mean, this guy's beating guys for fun, and any player that can do that in any league, I'm going to be in their corner immediately.
Yep. So I said that he has the potential to potentially be the best player in MLS. I said he's too good for this league. I'm going to go even a step further right now. Jefferson Soteldo is the best player in Major League Soccer right now. Right now,
masterclass.
Yeah, masterclass situation. In my opinion, right now, he is doing things that I have not seen people do in this league. And this league has evolved so much in recent years. It's gotten so much better in recent years. And Jefferson Soteldo is coming in and he's moving those goalposts. I really do believe right now that he's capable of doing things in this league that other people can't. Alex Bono had the infamous quote during his press conference that Jefferson Soteldo can dribble through traffic on the 401. And literally...
Yeah, but can he do it on a rainy Tuesday on the Don Valley Parkway? That's what I'd like to. Because 401, 401, that's like the
I've seen enough of this guy that I know, man. I know this guy is a bona fide baller. I believe he's doing things that we haven't seen yet in this league, and I think the best is yet to come. I think he still has a couple screamers left in his pocket there. I think he has some magic still in his hat. Let's call it his magician's hat.
His magician's hat. Pause is the magician. Yep, Jefferson is, listen. He does some great things out there on the pitch. I have spoken a lot about my reluctance to fully embrace him as our Lord and Savior, but it's getting closer. I mean, what else can you say about Jeff at this point? Let's move to our man Ralph Priso, the disappearing man who suddenly found himself back on the pitch in a red shirt. We talked about this on our spaces. That to me was such a team goal. I mean, it doesn't happen if Josie's not on the pitch. It doesn't happen if Priso's not in the perfect position to mop it up, Paul Scholes style. So I really, really enjoyed that goal. I know Mitch did enough to put it in the rundown. So Mitch, what do you think about that goal?
Well, I think it just really fits the theme that we've been talking about recently, and that's player confidence. And we saw it with Alex Bono, obviously, how much that's improved his performance. And I actually thought when Ralph Priso came on in that game, he looked pretty terrible. He was making some bad back passes, some shaky giveaways, and that's unfortunately been kind of consistent with what we've seen with Ralph and his cameo appearances ever since he got pretty much unfairly dropped from Chris Armas' side after an incredible performance against the Columbus Crew way back when.
I tweeted out that exact same thing, man.
Yeah, he said,
there you go.
And you know what happened 5 minutes later?
He scored. And literally, his confidence soared immediately after that. You could see his head brought up, and he was one of the best players on the pitch at the end of that game. So it's just fits that narrative, right? That give players confidence, and their performances will improve immeasurably.
Yeah, and I have let me see if I can find this quote from him. So he actually spoke about that exact same thing.
Yeah,
the match.
Exactly. He came clean. He owned it, actually.
Yeah, and I asked him, I'm like, quite honestly, I didn't really ask him about his performance. I asked him because it was the first time he was making an appearance at BMO Field, actually, because he signed late last year when the team was in East Hartford. And hometown kid. So I asked him what the environment was like. And essentially what he said is, it was a great environment. When I got subbed in, I just tried to play my game. But I think before my goal, I was not good. I think I gave a couple balls away. I think I was processing things a little slowly. I think I wasn't good at all before my goal. And after my goal, that just took weight off me. And I just started playing a little bit more freely and more just relaxed and more comfortable. And I think after that, I had a better performance. And I think that sums up exactly what we were saying is this guy was putting a little bit too much pressure on himself, trying to get back to where he was before being inexplicably dropped from the lineup. It just, he felt like he needed to prove something out there. And I thought, as he mentioned, he was overthinking things a little bit. That goal happens. And there you go. This is
always reset. Yeah.
This is a guy who kind of looks like he's refound his confidence. He's earned Javier Perez's trust to the point where Javier Perez feels comfortable starting the kid. And I thought, again, even though he went down with what looked like to be a cramp, I thought he played well against Chicago. So let's see what the future looks like going forward for this kid. But I think he has earned the coach's trust.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think it makes that situation in the middle of the park very interesting too, because now you have Ralph, you'll have Oso coming back from the Gold Cup in all kinds of form, and we know what he's been doing this season. You've got obviously Doug Otto, who I thought was amazing against the New York Red Bulls, a big part of Toronto FC's late push that unfortunately didn't end in a goal, but looked, about as good as we've seen them play offensively in a while. And obviously Michael Bradley, who's proven to be pretty undroppable in recent years. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge to figure all of that out as well. Of course, you can shift one of them over to right midfield, but other than Oso, I don't think any of them really play very well out there. And even Oso, you don't want him at his best. He's not going to be playing that position. So
exactly.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one.
And Kamar Lawrence will be returning, eh? He lost to the U.S. last night, so that's going to be a massive addition.
That's huge, yeah.
For this
it's huge.
team.
What
Dustin
a fullback!
Morrow,
amazing, fantastic. We could
Justin
use
Morrow went down injured warm up, we got word after that he was carrying a lot, I guess, from playing the full 90s in the week leading up to that match. And he tried pushing it until what Javier Perez called like the very last moment. And they just made the decision that he wasn't going to be able to go out there and really give it his all. So they decided to withdraw him from the lineup. It's what they called as precautionary. But hopefully he's all right. But the fact that Lawrence will be back into the mix, I think, is a very good signal for this TFC team who desperately need fullbacks.
Also, we get Zabs back, Captain Zavaleta, as Yvonne reminded us. Yeah, I mean,
that could be big, actually.
Do you want? Of course, it could be big. Do we want? I got some notes that I collected on our rundown from the WTR forums. Do you want to do a quick hits on that, or
how crazy are these?
They're not that.
Are we getting the Jefferson Soteldo skipping out on Venezuela because no?
There's nothing. There's nothing that bad. There's nothing that bad. The general consensus. Well, let's start with this. Let's start with Junior Hoylett needs a club. We are a club. He's from Toronto, and he likes all the tweets that we keep putting out suggesting that he should come to TFC. So I'm of the opinion that we just drop a bag of money off at his place and let bygones be bygones and sign him on a TAM deal, priority one.
Where do you get that money from?
Yeah, with what TAM?
What TAM are you talking about?
The deal that we make with Colorado for, I don't know, we'll find some TAM.
There's no budget right now for Junior Hoylett.
So then there's no budget.
Like a dirt cheap contract.
Yeah, buy the guy a condo. Buy him a condo, the Inter Miami special.
The Inter Miami way.
That's worked out great for them, by the way.
Do we need... Okay, so we have no money. So we're not buying a center back in this window, which is what everyone on WTR is screaming about.
I don't know if we're not buying a center, unless you'd have to find ways to move around the salary budget if that's what you feel is the most pressing need on this roster. There are ways to make it happen.
Okay.
Obviously, I think some money would have to go out for that to happen.
I think Junior Hoylett is the most pressing need on this roster, but I am in the minority. I'm sure you would say that
Junior Hoylett would be amazing, but at the end of the day, it comes down to how much are you getting the player for, and what's his price tag. And the reality is, there's not enough salary budget right now with this TFC roster. They were tight coming into the season, really tight up against the salary budget, and then they added Dom Dwyer, who I'm not expecting to come in at a lot of money. They added Kamar Lawrence, who I am expected to come in at a decent amount. And they decided to bring in Jefferson Soteldo in the primary transfer window instead of the secondary transfer window, which cost another $250,000 on the salary budget. So I can't imagine this team has much room, really wiggle room to make some moves. Also, they don't have roster space.
We don't have roster space.
There's people on the roster right now who can't be activated because there's no roster space. So again, there would have to be a lot of pieces going out for pieces to come in,
or condos to be bought. So then the next question is, what's up with Julian Dunn and Rocco Romeo? And I actually answered this in the forums, but I think it's important we're not going to scream it from the mountaintops because we're not at training. But at the end of the day, if they're not getting minutes on this with the roster in the state that it is and the defensive woes, that has to suggest something. I'm not going to say that they're not ready for prime time, but the suggestion that they aren't is a pretty strong one at this point. Wouldn't you agree?
I actually asked Perez about Julian Dunn.
Okay.
Last press conference, I believe it was. And essentially, well, I'll tell you this right now. I don't think Javier Perez is a guy who, at this point in time, is going to be going out of his way to play the kids.
Okay.
He's not even a guy who likes making substitutions in a match. Again, Ralph Priso got his opportunity.
Luke Singh's getting played all over the park, which is insane. I mean, it's a weird disconnect.
Ralph Priso got his opportunity because Aro went down injured, and Mark Delgado was forced to shift to right back. Therefore, you had a spot in the center of the park for someone to come in. Luke Singh got his opportunity because there's no other fullbacks on the roster, and Justin Morrow got withdrawn right before warm up, and there's no other option there. So the way that you get the kids into the lineup is really going to be through injury, and that's what Perez said to me when I asked about Julian Dunn. Is Julian Dunn is right in that category of other guys there that are waiting on the bench. Is that be ready? You never know when your opportunity is going to come, and when it does come, try and take it. But Julian Dunn's not taking minutes away from Omar Gonzalez or Chris Mavinga right now. Okay. He also missed the first, how many months are we into the season now? Like 3-4 months of the season with the hip injury.
What are months? What is time?
He's also coming off an injury, right? So, I mean, he has made the bench the last 3 games for TFC. So there is, some solace there that he is being included in the 18.
Okay.
But again, he falls under that category of right now, what TFC need are wins, and it's not the right time to experiment with the kids. So that's what I'll say about Julian Dunn. Rocco Romeo, that may fall under the he's not quite ready yet to be a first team impact player.
And people are confused because of the loan stints in Europe, right? And they think, they're almost assuming that the level at what was it, Korga, whatever team he played on, HB Koje, is that much higher than MLS, which I think is kind of arrogant presumption. It may actually be.
It's not even close.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is.
That's Euro snobbery, and he also didn't get a lot of minutes there, so it is what it is. And then it's funny that you say Dunn is not taking minutes from Omar, because Omar hasn't looked very good out there. Is it simply club seniority, or is it the fact that Javier is a interim coach? He's not playing a kid over a center back that's making as much money as Omar is. Like the ceiling for Omar.
Omar hasn't looked good, but the replacement level below Omar Gonzalez is a precipitous
drop. Yeah.
Is it better than what Omar Gonzalez is given right now? Like that's the question you got to ask, and I don't know that it is. Quite honestly, I'm all for playing the kids. I think I like getting kids in the lineup, but the fact that TFC need to win games right now, for me, that drop off is too steep right now.
And Omar's out there for more than just his obviously on-field performance, like in terms of his ability on and off the ball. Like Toronto FC needs that leader back there, and no one's going to quite provide that like Omar will. So as much as sometimes he's the guy getting beat, like he's also making sure that other guys are in their positions and playing the right role to maybe even recover for him when he makes a mistake, or just in general, right? So I think from that perspective as well, with the options you have right now, I don't think you can take Omar out of the lineup.
Okay. You're answering a lot of the WTR form cyclical. It's not
going to make them any happier, I don't think, but it's it's always good to address those sort of things. I guess let's finish up here with the game ahead on Sunday, 7:30 at BMO Field. Still love that I can say that. Always great too.
Got my tickets.
Nashville.
Got my skis signed up. Got a stick of juicy fruit. It's going to be amazing. Nashville. Gosh, this is the first. No, we faced them since, or
we
have
faced
we?
them. Yeah, we faced
them. Yeah, they lost 3-2 earlier in the season.
Yeah. I remember that.
Late goal or something.
Yeah, I remember.
So a bit of a boogeyman team for Toronto FC. I think they haven't beat them yet, so that would obviously be a good one for them to be able to pick up some points. Obviously, a win I think is pretty paramount at this point. You need to start winning your home games. We talked about how they picked up the draw at home and again, very strong performance against the Red Bulls, but you got to start winning your home games if you want to get anywhere near the playoff situation again.
Absolutely. Nashville's a tough side because their attack's starting to click now. Who is it? It's a veteran, Sapong. Is that their CJ Sapong? I want to say Sapong. I think that's their starting striker right now. And he's starting to click. Canadian Alistair Johnson is a great presence for that team. And of course, is Walker even going to play?
So Walker's
healthy?
Walker's probably not going to play.
We are winning this game.
Alistair Johnson's probably not going to be
still
there
on.
as well.
He's still on. Yeah. Wow. So they're doing good, missing a whole lot of guys to international duty. Damn.
Yeah. No,
they're on good form.
Solid run of form.
So they're second in the Eastern Conference right now. I believe that's what they are in. Their identity has been for so long. It's just a team that's really tough to break down. They're really stingy there at the back, and TFC's biggest worry right now, in addition to, I still would put conceding goals early as one of their biggest worries, but where are they getting their goals from right now, TFC? Obviously, the addition of Soteldo and Pozuelo into the starting 11 help. Dom Dwyer, it does not look like a player who's goal-threatening at all right now.
Nope.
So hopefully Josie Altidore is fit enough to start the game and give them some decent minutes there. And if that's the case, then I give TFC a good shot here coming away. And especially if you add Kamar Lawrence back into the mix at fullback, and if Aro's healthy to go, then I don't see any reason why TFC can't find a way to pick up 3 points there at BMO Field.
It's an interesting point. I think Josie has to start this one because if Nashville gets an early lead, they'll bunker and we're doomed. So I do think that it can't be the Dom Dwyer show at the outset to this one.
Yeah, I would echo that, and obviously hopeful that Josie can start and Kamar can start, because then, and Auro as well, because then you're like 2 pieces away maybe from your best 11, or what we consider the best 11 for this team, and obviously that would be exciting to see, because we've talked so much about how will this team look if we can get all these guys on the field together, but this might actually be one of our best opportunities in a long time to see them all on the pitch together, which again in front of the home fans, which I do think has been a massive boost for this team's confidence and this team's ability to get back in a good run of form. I think this would be a great time to do it, and if you could pick up a result against Nashville, that would be a game changer for this season, I think.
Sunday of a long weekend. It should be a great atmosphere down there by BMO Field. So looking forward to that one.
Me too.
Like Mitch said, get loud out there, because this team hasn't played in front of fans really, aside from the last 2 matches at BMO Field, for almost 2 years now. So guys, go out there, give them some love, get rowdy, get loud. I want to hear, BMO Field really feel like 15,000 there on Sunday.
But keep your masks on and avoid and observe all COVID protocols, Mike.
Of course.
That's important. Don't tell everybody to go crazy, or we're all going to be throwing smoke bombs at each other, and it's going to get. And you'll be watching the Bacchanalia from the safety of a press box while I'm down there in the muck going, Michael Singh. What were you thinking?
Well, yeah, could be quite the week ahead. I mean, obviously, Yvonne, and we'll knock on wood here, the Gold Cup final is also Sunday. So, and like we said, Canada playing a pretty important game on the women's side on Friday. This is going to be a big week for Canadian soccer in general, a pretty monumental one. So let's I think we should wrap things up there. Yeah, on behalf of the homestand sports team, Kevin, Sophia, Edwin, really appreciate everything they do. Jeffrey P. Nesker, Michael Singh, thanks so much for listening and watching, everyone, whenever you take in this show. Until next Tuesday.
Cheers, guys.